Alright, so here's the thing. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy writing something like this on the internet. You know, one of those long confessions or lessons learned posts. But here I am. I've been with my girlfriend, well, ex now, for almost 4 years. We met in college, bonded over books and long study sessions. I was obsessed with Deep Work by Cal Newport at the time, trying to train my brain to focus in a world full of distractions, and she liked that about me. She said my monk mode made me mysterious. Honestly, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. Someone who admired my discipline and wanted to build a future together. But looking back, I realized the first cracks started showing in these subtle ways. She stopped asking me about what I was reading, stopped caring when I'd excitedly summarize some book or idea I was learning. Instead, she'd brush me off with, yeah, I'll watch the movie version. Small things, right? But it stung, especially because I felt like I was putting in the work to grow, both personally and professionally. At first, I chalked it up to stress. She'd just started a new job, long hours, weird boss, that whole thing. But deep down, I had this nagging feeling, like I was slowly becoming a background character in my own relationship. And I'll admit, I ignored it. I buried myself in work, in focus, in books. Because that's what I do. I push forward. But I had no idea just how badly that blind spot was going to burn me. So here's where things started to feel off. She got more secretive with her phone. Now, I'm not the paranoid type. I've always believed that if you have to snoop, the relationship is already dead. But it wasn't the phone itself that bothered me. It was the way she reacted to it. Like if I walked into the room while she was texting, she'd tilt the screen away just slightly or quickly lock it. I told myself, man, don't overthink. She's probably just venting to her friends about work drama. But the problem was, she'd stopped venting to me. One night, I came home late after staying at the library. I was rereading some chapters of Deep Work, trying to really hammer in the concept of eliminating distractions. And there she was, sitting on the couch, smiling at her phone like it was the funniest thing in the world. I asked what was up, and she gave me that half-second too long pause before saying, "Oh, just a meme." That pause felt like a knife. It wasn't just about the meme. It was about the fact that she used to show me everything. We'd laugh at dumb stuff together. But now, she was laughing alone, with someone else. I brushed it off, tried to convince myself I was imagining things. But in that moment, I felt this weird, sinking sensation in my stomach. Like my focus, this tool I'd been building up with all my reading, was slipping. Not at work, not in my studies, but in my own relationship. And I had no idea how much deeper this rabbit hole was about to go. The real gut punch came about 2 weeks later. I was at home, trying to practice spoken English using a graded reader version of The Great Gatsby. Yeah, nerdy, I know, but it helps with rhythm and fluency. She came in late, way later than she said she'd be, smelling like perfume that wasn't hers. I asked casually, "Rough day at work?" She froze for a second, then smiled and said, "Yeah, super busy, just grabbed a drink with the girls." Something didn't sit right. Her shoes were scuffed, like she'd been walking a lot, and her lipstick, usually perfect, was smudged. I didn't press her, though. I just nodded, went back to my book, and felt this cold heaviness settle in my chest. Later that night, she fell asleep early. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. I swear I didn't want to look, but the screen lit up, and I saw a preview. Just one line. "Can't stop thinking about you." My whole body went numb. I didn't even read who it was from. I just sat there, staring at that one message like it was a blade pressed against my throat. I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how the hell the person I trusted most could be living a double life right next to me. That was the night everything started unraveling. The next morning, I couldn't look at her the same way. It's wild how fast everything shifts. Like one night you're in love, and the next, you're living with a stranger. She was cheerful, humming while making coffee, asking if I wanted toast. I watched her, and in my head, all I could see was that message, "Can't stop thinking about you." I didn't ask who it was. I didn't ask what it meant. Instead, I tested her in small ways. I asked how her girls' night was, and she rattled off some story that sounded rehearsed, like she'd practiced it in front of the mirror. I nodded, smiled, even kissed her cheek before heading out the door. But inside, I was shaking. At work, I couldn't focus, which was ironic, because deep work had taught me to eliminate distractions. But here I was, completely distracted by the possibility that the woman I loved was betraying me. Every time I tried to dive into a task, my mind would replay that phone screen lighting up. The worst part? I still wanted to believe her. I kept telling myself, maybe it's just an old friend, maybe it's innocent. But in my gut, I knew. You can't unsee a message like that. And once the seed of doubt is planted, it grows fast. So yeah, the seed of doubt was eating me alive. I couldn't concentrate, couldn't sleep, couldn't even enjoy the little things. Every smile from her felt fake. Every late text felt like a hidden dagger. I tried to play it cool for a few days, but eventually I cracked. One night, after she went to shower, I opened her laptop. I swear I wasn't planning to snoop. It just happened. Curiosity, desperation, whatever you want to call it. Her email was open, and right there, in plain sight, were messages that made my stomach drop. Not just flirting, plans, dinners, hotels, things they'd already done. And the worst part? The guy wasn't some random stranger. It was her coworker, the one she always complained about, the one she said was annoying and pushy. I sat there in the glow of the screen, reading line after line, feeling like my chest was caving in. The words blurred, but the meaning was clear. She was in deep with this guy, and I was the fool she came home to. When she stepped out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, humming like nothing was wrong, I closed the laptop and just stared at her. My throat was tight, my hands shaking. But I didn't say a word. Not yet. I wanted to, but something inside me told me to wait, to gather myself before the explosion. That silence was the heaviest weight I've ever carried. I couldn't hold it anymore. The silence was killing me, and honestly, I was starting to hate myself for pretending everything was normal. That night, I asked her straight up, "Are you seeing someone else?" She froze, just for a second, but it was enough. Her eyes widened, then narrowed, like she was deciding whether to lie or confess. Finally, she let out this shaky laugh and said, "What? No, of course not. Why would you even ask that?" I told her I'd seen the emails. The color drained from her face. She didn't even try to deny it after that. Just sat down, staring at the floor, whispering, "I'm sorry." Those words cut deeper than any denial could have. Because if you're sorry, that means it's real. That means everything I'd been fearing wasn't just in my head. It was happening, and it had been happening for a while. I wish I could say I exploded, but I didn't. I just sat there, numb, asking questions I wasn't ready to hear the answers to. How long? Why him? Was it ever about me? Her answers blurred together. Something about feeling unseen, about me being too focused on work and books. And there it was. The very thing I thought made me better, stronger, more disciplined, was the excuse she used to betray me. That night, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just felt hollow, like she'd scooped out everything inside me and left me with nothing but an echo. The hours after the confrontation felt like I was stuck in some slow-motion nightmare. I couldn't eat, couldn't think straight. She went to bed in silence, while I sat on the couch staring at the dark TV screen like it was going to give me answers. That's when the anger hit. Not the loud, throw-things-around kind of anger, but the quiet, simmering rage that shakes your whole body. I kept replaying her words in my head. "You're too focused on work and books." Like what? Because I was trying to improve myself? Because I was disciplined? That's your excuse for crawling into someone else's bed? The next morning, she acted like she wanted to talk, but I couldn't even look at her. I left the apartment early and just walked aimlessly for hours. I ended up at a cafe, notebook in hand, trying to write it all out, like I could organize the chaos in my brain the same way I summarized books. But this wasn't deep work. This was raw, messy, and painful. And the weirdest part? I still felt love for her. Even after knowing what she'd done, there was this ache in my chest that whispered, "But maybe you can fix it." It made me feel pathetic, like I didn't even know who I was anymore without her. That contradiction, rage and love, betrayal, and longing, was ripping me apart. A couple of days later, the sadness hit me like a freight train. The anger had burned out, and what was left was this crushing emptiness. I remember sitting on my bed, holding one of the graded readers I'd been using for English practice, Of Mice and Men, I think. I tried reading out loud, the way I usually did to practice fluency, but the words just broke in my throat. I couldn't focus on the story, couldn't even finish a page. It was like my brain was short-circuiting, stuck replaying scenes of her with him. I cried. Hard. I'm not ashamed to say it. It wasn't just about the cheating. It was the betrayal of trust, the feeling that all the little moments we'd shared, the inside jokes, the long nights studying together, maybe none of it meant what I thought it did. Sleep became impossible. I'd close my eyes and picture her phone lighting up, that message, her smile at the screen. I'd jolt awake at 3 a.m., pacing the room like some restless ghost. That's when I realized this wasn't just a relationship problem anymore. It was bleeding into everything: my work, my studies, even my ability to function as a person. And if I didn't make a decision soon, it was going to break me completely. After a week of this fog, barely sleeping, barely eating, I hit a wall. I couldn't keep drifting. I had to make a choice: stay and try to fix this, or walk away and salvage what was left of myself. She asked me to talk one night. Said she was confused, that she didn't want to lose me, but also didn't know how to stop whatever she had with him. That word, confused, made my blood boil. Like, what's confusing about it? You either want me or you don't. You don't keep one foot in my life and the other in his bed. But part of me still wanted to hear her out. That's the messed up thing. Love doesn't just switch off, even when it should. I kept thinking maybe if I worked harder on the relationship, like I worked on my focus, my English practice, my career, I could repair it. But deep down, I knew that's not how betrayal works. You can't outwork someone else's lack of loyalty. That night, I wrote 2 lists in my notebook. On one side, reasons to stay. On the other, reasons to leave. The leave side filled up fast. Betrayal, broken trust, lies, her excuses. The stay side? Honestly, it was just one thing: history. For years together, and my fear of starting over. And when I saw it written down that way, the truth became clearer. The next evening, I told her we needed to talk. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. She sat across from me, eyes red, probably from crying, or maybe from guilt, who knows. I didn't drag it out. I just said it straight. I can't do this anymore. I can't unsee what I saw, and I can't unknow what you did. She broke down, begging me to reconsider, saying we could go to therapy, start fresh, rebuild trust. And for a second, I wavered. I pictured the version of us from the early days, her curled up next to me while I explained some book I was excited about, the way she used to look at me like I was her whole world. But then reality slapped me in the face. That version of us was gone. She killed it the moment she chose him. Therapy can't resurrect the dead. So I told her I was done. My voice cracked, but the words came out clear. I love you, but I love myself more. And I'm not going to let your choices destroy me. For the first time since this whole mess began, I felt a strange sense of control. Still broken, still hurting, but no longer powerless. The next few weeks were brutal. Moving out felt surreal. Packing up the life we'd built together, all the little reminders of us, and stuffing them into boxes that smelled faintly like her perfume. Every book I touched, every coffee mug, every photo brought a fresh wave of sadness. I stayed with a friend temporarily, trying to focus on work and my English practice to keep myself grounded. Graded readers, book summaries, even rereading deep work, everything became a lifeline. It was almost ironic. The very skills I honed for productivity were now keeping me sane through heartbreak. There were moments of weakness. I'd text her accidentally, hoping for a response, only to remember she wasn't mine anymore. I'd walk past places we used to go together and feel this hollow ache in my chest. And yet, each time, I reminded myself, this pain was temporary, but staying in a toxic relationship would have been permanent. I also realized something important. Betrayal doesn't just hurt, it teaches. It showed me the value of boundaries, the importance of self-respect, and that no amount of love can justify someone else's dishonesty. It was messy. It was painful, but I was slowly reclaiming myself. Months passed, and gradually, I started feeling like myself again. I threw myself into work, devouring books, practicing English with graded readers, and summarizing what I learned, not to escape, but to grow. I even joined a local language club to practice speaking, something I'd always wanted to do but never had the courage for. At first, it felt awkward, like everyone was judging me. But then I realized they weren't. They were learning too, stumbling over words just like I was. And for the first time in a long time, I felt alive, like my focus and discipline were finally serving me, not a fractured relationship. Oddly enough, betrayal became a teacher. It forced me to evaluate my priorities, to strengthen my emotional resilience, and to value honesty in ways I hadn't before. I stopped obsessing over her and started obsessing over myself. One night, I caught myself laughing at a book summary I'd written, thinking, wow, I actually enjoy my own company. That small moment, tiny, almost insignificant, felt like freedom. Looking back, I can see the whole thing more clearly now. Betrayal isn't just about the other person. It's about realizing your own worth and understanding the kinds of boundaries you won't compromise. I learned that love alone isn't enough. Respect, honesty, and shared effort are just as important, maybe even more. And I learned that ignoring the small red flags, like subtle distance, secretive behavior, and half-truths, can snowball into heartbreak you never saw coming. I also realized something about myself. I can handle failure, disappointment, even emotional pain. But I can't handle stagnation. My growth, my focus, my curiosity, those are non-negotiables. Betrayal tried to derail me, but it ended up teaching me how strong I actually am. It's weird, but painful experiences like this have a strange way of sharpening your perspective. You start seeing people and situations more clearly, and it makes the next relationship, or even just life in general, more intentional. If there's one thing I could tell anyone going through something like this, it's don't lose yourself. It's easy to get lost in someone else's betrayal, to obsess over why it happened or how you could have prevented it. But the truth is, you can't control someone else's choices. You can control how you respond. Focus on your growth, your passions, your goals. For me, that meant diving back into books, improving my English, practicing spoken language with graded readers, and reclaiming the focus I'd let slip. Small steps, day by day, led me to a stronger version of myself, someone I like and respect, even on the hardest days. Also, don't pretend everything's okay if it's not. Confront the truth, even when it hurts. Betrayal is messy, and denial only prolongs the pain. But once you face it head-on, you start taking your life back, piece by piece. Most importantly, give yourself time. Healing isn't linear. Some days you'll feel strong, some days hollow. Both are part of the process. Now, a year later, I can finally say I feel at peace. I've rebuilt my life in ways I never imagined. I still love books, still practice English every day, still challenge myself to grow. But the biggest change isn't in my skills, it's in my mindset. I don't fear betrayal anymore because I've learned that my value isn't defined by someone else's choices. I've learned to trust my instincts, to respect myself, and to prioritize my own growth over anyone else's approval. Sometimes I think about her, the life we shared, and I feel a pang of sadness, but it's different now. It's not desperation or longing. It's a quiet acknowledgement that some chapters end, and that's okay. Life doesn't stop, it moves forward, and so do I. If there's one takeaway from this, it's simple. Focus on yourself, nurture your passions, and never let someone else's betrayal define your worth. You'll survive, you'll grow, and eventually, you'll even smile at the memory, knowing you came out stronger on the other side.